What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be starting to strip down the rear end of the 350Z in preparation for some rust repair. So guys, as my intro just said, I am going to be stripping down everything on the rear of the 350 and for some rust repair basically. So in my previous couple of videos you see me remove the side skirts and the rear bumper, and I have found a few rust spots that aren't bad, but they need treating. There is one bit I'm a bit concerned about on the driver's side sill, a bit of a hole, common area on the 350Z. So if you're looking for rust areas on the 350Z, this video is for you. But in terms of what I'm going to be doing in this video, I'm basically going to be stripping all the undersides, so the exhaust back box coming off, all the hangers, the mounts, everything that underside that I can take off, the heat shield, all that, etc. The rear member stays and the iron bumper irons and stuff, and the crash bar and everything like that is all coming off. So basically I'm going to be cleaning it up and rust proofing it effectively. So I'm just going to show you a few things that I'm using currently to do this. Right guys, so before we jump in with actually what I'm going to be doing in this video, I'm just going to run you through some stuff I'm actually using in terms of doing the rust prevention and treating the actual rust on the underside of the car. So basic tools, I've got a power drill with a brush, a sanding disc brush attachment, which also I've got a wire wool attachment. That's really good. Then I have got an angle grinder with a couple of flappy sand discs on them. These are really good as well. And in terms of actually treating the rust, Hammerite Coup Rust, which is actually really good at actually treating the rust. What that does is actually, any rust that's left after you've sanded it and grounded it back, it converts back into usable metal basically, and it seals it up. So really good. And also I've got a spray can version. This is general, I got this off Amazon. Basically so I can get inside some of the areas where the paintbrush, because you have to paint this on with a brush, won't necessarily reach. So yeah, let's jump in with the video. So as we can see, the 350Z is actually quite rusty around the rear arches especially, but it is worth saving. Underneath is very crusty, but it's not yet gone through the body, so it is worth saving. It's quite dirty. In a few areas it does need quite a good big cleanup, but a lot of it should come off with relative ease and should be able to be treated quite well. Here I'm removing the rear crash bar. This will give me better access to some of the lower bottom parts of the body around the rear. As you can see along the bottom of the body rear, you can see there is quite a bit of rust around the spot welds. This is the rear bumper irons. They are also in a very bad condition. To take them off is purely 6 nuts and bolts around the back. Here I'm just giving the rear bumper body shell a bit of a clean up with a wire brush. Obviously you'll never get rid of all the rust if it's gone too deep, but getting it back as smooth and as close to the fresh metal as possible is a really good start for when using the rust converter. Here I'm removing more of the rear bumper irons. These are really badly corroded as they are very flimsy bits of metal. I am still trying to work out whether you actually need them or not. For the time being it looks like you don't, so they're coming off and I'm going to decide what to do with them at a later date. Again, I'm giving the area a thorough clean with a wire brush. This will get rid of any loose corrosion and leave it with a fresh paintable surface for the coup rust. As you can see, inside the rear arch there is definitely some rust creeping in, and definitely along the back of the tub. This does look like a previous repair which has been a bit bodged, so I'm a bit concerned about that. I'm now starting to clean up the back of the bumper irons and make way for rust converter. As you can see how badly corroded these parts actually are. By sanding it down with a wire brush, you make a good platform for the rust converter to stick to. This will allow the rust converter to turn whatever rust there is left on the metal back into fresh metal. Currently removing something called a strap down point, which a lot of people are saying this is purely for shipping. It's very corroded and extremely rusty and was starting to flake in my hands, so I have decided to remove it as I do see there is no use for it, and if it is used for towing, well, it will probably rip out of the bottom of the shell anyway, so it's probably best to leave it off. This is the coup rust working on the rear bumper irons. As you can see, it turns like a blue before moving on to a black, and it becomes a fresh paintable surface that's sealed all the rust in. It's quite simple to do. You simply just use a paintbrush and paint it over the surface. You leave it to cure for around 24 to 48 hours completely, and you'll find that it's turned any remaining rust on the metal into a nice sealed fresh paintable surface. Moving on to where the rear lights and bump boot release are stored. These clips were so badly rusted I actually had to rip this part out of the rear bumper. The problem is that they have completely rusted to themselves, so here you can see me fighting it with a screwdriver and some pliers. Eventually I was able to remove all 6 of them. These are quite easy to replace as they are basically just little clips you can pick up from Halfords or somewhere like that. So you can see they are a little bit of a fight, and this is me mucking around with them for about half an hour or so. This is me now trying to remove the back box of the 350Z. Use a tiny bit of WD-40. This will help you slide the rubbers off the hangers of the exhaust. By doing this, I gain excellent access to the heat shield and the under tray of the rear of the car, and will allow me to rust proof even further back under the tub. The silver shiny bit at the tub is where the exhaust heat shield sat, so you can see just how road salt and water can corrode metal over time. This is the exhaust hanger itself. These are also removable, so they're coming off for a good rust treatment. You can get new ones of these, but they are around 50 to 60 pounds. I can't justify it when they've still got strength left in them. Now I'm going over the area with a wire brush. The idea of the rust converter is that you should remove all loose, flaking rust and try and get it back to smooth metal if you possibly can. In my case, this wasn't particularly possible in all areas because the rust was actually too far into the bodywork and you'd risk punching through. So the best option is to grind it back as far as you can and then simply go from there. You can see that I've removed a lot of the flaking rust and it is quite smooth now on the underside of the tub. This now allows me to paint on the coup rust. Remember, it is best that you grind it back and remove all loose flake surface rust. Once this is done, you simply just brush on with a paintbrush and it does convert the rusty metal back into usable paintable metal, which I will be under sealing at some point. So yeah guys, that's all we've got time for in this video unfortunately, but basically just for this first bit, taking all the stuff off and then, you know, starting to sand back and grind back all the rusty bits on the underside of the car and then sealing it with the coup rust. You're never going to get all the rust off because, you know, you're going to get rid of all the flakes, but sometimes you find the metal is actually too far gone, which is the case on the back of mine, really, unfortunately. So no matter how much you grind and sand, you're never going to go back to fresh metal, otherwise you're just going to start punching holes in it. So the best thing to do is put the coup rust on, because that is rust converter. It literally converts the rust back into a usable metal. I don't know how it works, but it's actually amazing stuff. And it's actually really, you can actually feel it strengthening up the metal again. So really would recommend using something like that. But in terms of what I'm doing, guys, if you're going to do the same, because these 350Zs are notorious for rust. They're getting old now. They're nigh on almost 20 years old. You know, they're getting on a bit. They're going to have rust. So, you know, if you need to be doing this, then that's what you need to be doing before it goes back on the road. But in terms of ease, pretty easy. Just need some time and a bit of, you know, elbow grease and you're fine. But as always, guys, hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to check out my Redbubble shop. I've got a really few good bits of merchandise on there if you want to help support the channel. But apart from that, guys, don't forget to like, because it really helps out the algorithm. It gets people to look at my videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content and you want to see more. And I will see you in my next video. Cheers.